Hello and welcome everyone to the Skincare Conversion Rate Optimization Masterclass. My name is Nick. I'm joined by two awesome industry veterans who I'm going to introduce in a moment. And before we kick things off, I just want to mention there are some really cool resources that you're going to get at the end of this masterclass. So stick around. We'll do Q&A and we'll tell you how to get these really amazing resources. I lead the sales, marketing, and partnerships teams at Shoplift.ai. We are a conversion rate optimization app for Shopify Plus brands. And I would like to introduce Allison. Allison, would you give us a quick about you?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Allison Sworduk. I'm the senior e-commerce strategist here at Uncommon. And Uncommon is an agency that works with e-commerce brands to help maximize their conversion potential. A little bit of background about me. I have about 10 years of experience on both the brand and agency side, managing websites and then also providing strategic insights. So I'm going to hand things off to Adnan from Rebuy.
Thank you, Allison. It's really, really nice to be here. Thank you for inviting us, Nick. My name is Adnan. I've been in this space for almost 7 years now, which is wild to say. So previously at Shopify, now I lead our technology partnerships here at Rebuy. So I get the awesome opportunity to work with partners like Shoplift and Nick. For myself, I'm about an hour away from Toronto. So we are just heading into summer in the next little while. So great to be here. And yeah, thanks again for having us, Nick.
Awesome. We'll answer as many questions as we can in the final 10 minutes of the masterclass. And we have a great team that's monitoring the chat who will make sure that all those questions do get answered. Anything that we don't get to, we'll follow up with you all, but I don't think that will happen. What are you walking away with today? First of all, myself, along with the other two individuals on this masterclass, are going to be dropping some really awesome tidbits, kind of teasers of the larger piece of content that you're going to get at the end of the masterclass. You will be learning a framework for how to build your own conversion rate optimization program for your brand that runs 4 seasons, all 4 seasons or 12 months out of the year. You're also going to get a playbook with over 100 skincare specific test ideas, and as well as the planning template for how to map these test ideas to the roadmap for your brand. Super high quality pieces of content, and you're not going to see a single generic CRO thing in this entire knowledge drop. I know you're all sick of seeing, generic test ideas that CRO experts claim are the things that every brand should be doing, but you've already tested it and it doesn't work for you. That is not what this masterclass is about. This is highly specific to the skincare category. We have 4 strategic pillars that we're going to talk about today that allow skincare brands to convert the traffic that they're already getting. Pillar 1, trust is the conversion gate. Pillar 2, recreate the retail experience online. Pillar 3, the routine is the real product. And pillar 4, skin type is your segmentation axis. So we're going to work our way through these. They're going to make a ton of sense in what we're talking about. And we're also going to tease a few of the test ideas that we have for each of these pillars so you can kind of grasp what this might mean for your brand. Okay, let's jump into it. Pillar number 1, trust is the conversion gate. Your shoppers are typically not impulse buyers. These are high consideration purchases. And the way that I like to think about trust is there's very little that you're going to do with your trust signals that is going to convince a non-buyer to buy. However, trust signals or lack thereof are the things that absolutely kill conversion. They are table stakes, and for this category, you must have them. So what does that mean? Well, it's actually not one thing. It's a stack. Studies show that nearly 3/4 of consumers are now actively seeking information about clean ingredients before they purchase skincare products. That's one example of a trust signal. So the trust stack it's really 4 things. Clinical proof, so study results, before and after timelines, endorsements by professionals, ingredient transparency, what's in it, where did it come from? Third-party validation, so do authorities validate that, yes, your stuff works or is safe? And peer proof, and this is a really important one, but it could be like what real people say about your product or what they look like when they use your product, or other types of user-generated content are really strong trust signals. Let's talk about a few example tests that you can run. First one, trust badge hierarchy and placement on the PDP. What I observe is that most skincare brands have 1, maybe 2, maybe even 3 elements of that trust stack but how you mix and match and how you actually utilize them on your PDPs can often feel like a little bit of vibes or a shot in the dark. Maybe your consumers lean more authority driven. Maybe they lean more UGC driven. And so actually just testing in the hierarchy of the information on the PDP can have a huge lever on conversion. Clinical study result presentation, presenting almost like light case studies on PDPs. A lot of your products have been studied, and you might have pages or blog posts that talk about the findings of those studies. But can you tease those things, especially with numerical information on the PDP? Maybe it links off page so people can go deeper if they want to, but often just seeing those signals can drive significant conversion lifts. Review filtering by skin type. I'm going to show you an example of this in a moment, but your consumers really want to know, yeah, I get that you're saying this works, but does it work for me? I want to hear from people who have similar characteristics to my body and what the impact that they achieved was. And ingredient transparency. We are seeing more and more skincare brands actually highlighting the ingredients in their products. This wasn't something that I saw 5-10 years ago, but it's becoming even a value prop for a lot of these brands. So let's talk about an example of a brand that does a lot of these things really well. Supergoop, super sophisticated team, one of my favorite brands and e-com teams. When I see those facings in Target that look exactly like the website, I'm like, man, the brand marketers on this team know what the hell they are doing. Now, bringing that experience to life on an e-com website, it's a different story, right? This team's very data-driven. They're very sophisticated. And I kind of watch what they're doing and I say, okay, I think other brands are going to be doing this in like 6 to 12 months from now. So definitely industry leaders in conversion rate optimization. A couple of things that this team does really well. Trust badges. You can see on the image on the left, they have some awards from notable publications stamped right on the feature image in the collection gallery. The one that's a little bit smaller than white and blue is actually a certification that they earned from the Skin Cancer Foundation. These are SPF products. And so a lot of people care about whether or not these products are, because they're a little bit, more branded, more boutique-y, like, are they safe? Do they do the fundamentals of protecting my skin from sun damage? And they have certifications that prove that. Another really cool example, and I realize the screenshot's a little bit small, but all of Supergoop's product reviews, when they solicit those reviews from customers, they collect information like, what type of skin do you have? Is it dry? Is it oily? And then they actually can play that back in the product reviews. And so I can filter on only the reviews from people who I happen to have oily skin. So I can see reviews that people wrote that also have oily skin. And that just really drives home that, hey, this product, yes, it works, but it works specifically for me, and really helps overcome a lot of those objections about whether or not I should potentially purchase or spend this much money on sunscreen. Okay, pillar number 2, recreate the retail experience online. So if your customer is in a Sephora or Target, they get to pick up the product, they get to feel the texture, they get to sample it, put it on their skin, they get to smell it. They often are interacting with an expert in the store itself who's going to make recommendations and help them figure out exactly how to utilize the product. When they're shopping online, they get effectively none of that. It's a 2D experience, and the brands that are closing the gap between what that experience feels like at retail and what it feels like online are the ones who are winning on conversion rate optimization today. So what does that really mean? Not everyone's product page, but most product pages are missing 3 things that kind of close the sale. What does the product feel like? What is the texture? How heavy is it, or how light is it? How does it absorb? What finish does it leave on my skin? Is it, again, like, does it work for me? Does it work on dry skin? Does it work on fair skin? Does it work on itchy skin? Is it going to agitate a skin condition even? I've seen stuff online about that. And then personalized guidance, recommendations, and other ways to help folks find the correct product or the correct variant of that product for them. So online, you can simulate all 3, but most brands aren't simulating any of these. A couple of test ideas we could try. Texture and application imagery versus product-only shots. This is one I see a ton right now. I think, like, again, just a couple of years ago, It used to be the way to sell skincare products online was to show a model who was wearing that particular skincare product and really appeal to this, perfect version of yourself wearing the product. Now I'm seeing a lot more UGC. I'm also seeing these texture shots a ton more. When that product comes out of the tube or the bottle, what does it look like? What does it look like on the surface of my skin? What does it look like once it's rubbed in? Things like that. So experiment with these things. Your consumer may or may not want to see this goopy thing, or that may be the missing piece that is that they wanted to know before clicking add to cart. Before and after result imagery. So if you're a skincare brand who's really appealing to transformation or results, don't forget to show what the human that didn't have the product looked like before, or that what their skin looked like before, and what it looked like after, and crucially, what it looks like at the steps along the way, especially if you're selling a routine. What does it look like at 1 week? What does it look like at 3 weeks? What does it look like at 8 weeks? That's really going to drive a lot of subscription opt-in if you can show the time lapse of results. And UGC placement, I'm not telling you to go out and fire all of your models, but what I am saying is mix in some real humans with the aspirational shots in your image galleries. People do want to see what real unedited folks look like when they are applying your products. Okay, so let's talk about another great brand, another really sophisticated team. And again, another one of my favorite brands. I don't think this team gets enough credit for how they were. This is the Lady Gaga's brand, by the way. But in my mind, House Labs kind of stands on its own and doesn't rely on the Lady Gaga value prop. I think that this brand has done a tremendous job of kind of stepping out of the shadow of their celebrity who built the brand. And they offer tremendous products, really awesome price points and tons of value. And they do a ton right in their e-commerce experience. On the left image, what you would see if you went to their homepage today is if you mouse over any image in any of their collections, it's going to toggle from on hover, it's going to toggle from a product shot to a texture shot. And they have all sorts of textures. They have serums, they have oils, they have glosses, they have lacquers, they have powders, they have foundations, they have all sorts of things. And so the consumer experiencing all those different textures really drives home, like, what does it feel like to experience this product? And then on the right, and again, I get it's a little bit small, but if you see a bit of micro copy on the right-hand image, this is a product called the Atomic Shake Lip Lacquer. The micro copy above it is effing phenomenal. Kiss proof. Who has kissed or been kissed by someone wearing a bright red lipstick before? And what has that experience been like for the person who receives that kiss? So in 2 words, 9 characters, House Labs has conveyed what it feels like to experience this product, both as the wearer and as the receiver of the person who applied the kiss. Kiss proof. I freaking love it. Great job, House Labs team. Okay, I'm going to now kick myself off the stage and I'm going to kick it over to Adnan from Rebuy, who's going to talk about the routine is the real product.
Thank you, Nick. I love those stories around Supergroup and House Labs. Very, very informational. Thank you. So really quickly recap of what Rebuy is before we jump into this. So again, my name is Adnan. Thank you for joining us today. Rebuy is a personalization engine for Shopify businesses. So we are going to power upsells, cross-sells, promotional offers, merchandising across that whole site. We get the opportunity to work with over 5,000 Shopify Plus brands. So lots of different brands that we're getting to work with, lots of experience that we can bring to the table, and hopefully give you even 1 or 2 actionable takeaways today. That is my goal. So here today to talk about how we can create your routine as the real product. Oftentimes businesses in your space think of their special serum or their product as the product, but your customers are viewing your brand as a system or as a routine. There's a lot of power in that routine. You can be educational. You're prescribing what to buy and why to buy these things together. So there is a lot of power in that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Most businesses think that they're doing the former, what to buy, but very few are doing the latter, which is why to buy these together. So that's what we want to talk about. Okay, next slide. So your customers are already thinking in routines, whether you realize it or not, even if you're selling individual products on individual PDPs. We have this result that we see 38% AOV uplifts when your site is making the routine obvious. So we've talked a little bit about reframing that retail experience. I love that aspect, Nick. So think about having your knowledgeable employee, your knowledgeable retail worker on the floor, walking up to shoppers and walking up to customers and really helping them curate their routine. The right sequence, the right pairing logic, the right explanation of why product A works better when it's followed by product B and C. So that's how brands are winning. They're using their PDP as a consultation, not like it's just empty shelf space where they're putting a product and putting the onus on the customer to learn everything about it. A quick note, and also just a distinction worth making, is that there's a difference in a generic, you may also like, with algorithmic cross-selling showing what other people are buying. There's a difference between that and an intentional routine merchandising experience. Here's the specific products and here's why you should buy them together. So I think the story here is really that we're combating your buyer's decision fatigue around what to buy and why to buy these things, not necessarily fatigue around just buying your products overall. Okay, next slide. So lots of different stories that we can pull from. This is the first one that I wanted to mention. And the reason I wanted to bring this one up first is because I wanted to explain and show that we don't need to rely on discounting in order to generate a higher average order value or to increase that basket size. So this is a brand that we work with, Angela Caglia Skincare. They are a luxury skincare brand. As part of their brand equity, they do not rely on discounting. They do not want to discount on site. So our challenge was, how can we increase AOV and LTV without increasing acquisition costs through discounting? How can we lead to more natural product discovery? So with Angela Caglia Skincare, what we did is relatively simple. We essentially were lifting some of the categories that we helped them execute on the PDP and lifting and shifting these into cart. So what we did is we pulled their complete the routine type of experience on the PDP, still left it there, but also were able to nestle that directly into their cart experience. We were also able to pull a one-click upgrade to subscription directly into their cart as well. That wasn't associated with the discount, but just making it easier and even having it more visible in the cart was awesome, and it led to some really good LTV plays. Now, the one additional net new thing that we added to their cart was a tiered progress bar. Now, a lot of you may have like a free shipping offer or a free shipping threshold, which is great. What we did is we tied that free shipping threshold to complete the routine. So it wasn't just going to be tied to a dollar value. It was actually tied to that experience of actually completing the routine of choosing one specific product from each of those categories that were defined. So an interesting play at being able to incentivize higher average order values and making it all really easy in the cart. And then the value or the uplift speaks for itself, more than a 30% uplift in their AOV. So really, really solid results with some relatively easy implementations that we were already doing on the PDP. Okay, so as Nick had mentioned, you're going to get a ton of great specific tests from the ebook, and stick around. He's also going to talk about how we can actually implement these throughout the year. I wanted to give you a couple examples from the Rebuy perspective of a couple of tests that you could run with, some actionable takeaways from today. So the first one is really going to speak to the kind of the core of what I've been talking about, this complete the routine. How can we show shoppers what to buy and why to buy them? So for this first test, instead of maybe a generic cross-sell or a pairs well with on your PDP, try testing like a step-based format, whatever that looks like for your brand. And really the idea is to show buyers what to buy from next and in what category. It's going to show your customers where they are in that given routine and what is still missing. And you can design this experience to have as much or as little information as possible, probably worth a separate test. So you can imagine something like, this vitamin C serum activates much more effectively when followed by SPF. That's going to convert better than customers also bought this SPF. So there's definitely something to say there around what type of information you're also presenting and how you're kind of consulting how you're consulting the shopper on actually choosing their routine. And although this test says PDP, we regularly see businesses have this sort of bundle separately on a bundle page. I wouldn't call it bundle in your navigation bar. Maybe it's complete your routine or create your routine. So yeah, just wanted to call that out, that it doesn't necessarily need to be on your PDP, worth also considering having it on a separate page altogether. Okay, test number 2, routine bundle pricing. This is going to be great if you are already discounting specific products across your site. So we know that bundles are going to reduce your decision fatigue when you're presenting like a complete morning routine as an example, as a single purchase decision at a slight discount. You're actually replacing 4 individual buying decisions as one. So the idea with this test is we can show that the reduction in friction for your shoppers is going to consistently outperform the cost of your discounting. And I wouldn't even consider it an additional cost because all we're doing is taking the same products, the same price savings and discounting that you already have, and just framing it differently. It's a bundled discount versus the individually discounted items as cross sells on your PDPs. Oftentimes businesses are surprised at how much of an uplift this can have around just reframing it differently around the bundle, not around the individual PDPs. Okay, we can go to the last test. Now, this one I'm sure is near and dear to the heart of many folks on the call. It's how can we essentially use your Halo product as a pathway or as a gateway product to the rest of your product portfolio. So for this one, how can you turn a trial purchase of a serum, or maybe it's the entry-level cleanser, into the biggest commercial opportunity that you have? So when somebody buys that entry-level product, or maybe that hero product, it's not just that one single transaction. Really, you have to focus on how can we use this as a pathway for natural product discovery into the rest of your catalog. So we've talked a little bit about PDP. I've given you some cart examples. We've talked about a separate bundle page. That's the test, is which one of these pathways can you most effectively teach your customers about the next product or that next step in the routine from that hero product, whether it's going to be directly on that PDP, maybe it's a carousel that's buried a little bit lower, maybe it's a simple add-on, maybe you want to carry those into the maybe it has its own experience on a separate bundle page. So really testing that pathway from your hero product to the rest of your product discovery. So as I mentioned, we have a ton of different brands that we get the opportunity to work with. So a couple of more stories that I wanted to shed some light on. Now, these are going to be 2 different brands. Again, all of these case studies are available on our site if you wanted to dive a little bit deeper or see some of the different features. Both of these have a little bit of an LTV play here. So I've spoken a lot about routine building, but really subscription adoption is in that same kind of motion. The routine that we've been talking about creates that dependency, but the subscription is actually capturing it. So that's kind of the common thread between the 2 stories I'm going to talk about. If you think about it, once a customer is using multiple products, auto replenishment becomes the path of least resistance. So that's what I wanted to focus on with these 2 case studies. Now with Dime, I want to highlight a few things. So you can see here that we start showing some of their bundles and this complete the routine option from the PDP. We're pulling that directly into the cart as well. So it's still being able to curate this, okay, what's the next step? What should you be purchasing? But just having that on more surface areas. Now we also help them set up a gift with purchase. I haven't spoken about that a lot yet, but gift with purchase is a great tactic if you're looking at product launches, if you're looking at what products would work well in launches. So maybe just your like audience testing. Maybe it's a free gift or maybe it's a selectable gift. So you can start doing some audience testing if it's a selectable gift. So the overall gift with purchase we've seen as a huge just value prop in this space. So that's something else that we help them be able to accomplish directly in the cart. And then lastly, we're able to pull their upgrade to subscription button directly into the cart as well. We'll just move on to the last one. So this is CO Beauty. This is another luxury skincare brand. This was started by Gigi Howard. This one is focused more on skincare patches for anti-wrinkling and anti-aging. Now, same thing as Dime, we're pulling in that upgrade to subscription directly into the cart as well. They also have this in their PDP. I would say in the last 12 to 18 months, Shopify has also made that available on your checkout page. So if you're on Shopify Plus and you're using any kind of subscription provider, really any of them, you can combine that with somebody like upgrade to subscription also at checkout. So let's be able to show easy upgrade to subscription on as many different surfaces as possible. The other improvement here was organically bringing product discovery into the cart. So if we know people are buying that hero product, how can we lead them to the other parts of the catalog directly from that cart experience? The 16% AOV uplift here is impressive, but really that 16.5% increase in subscription revenue is massive. So if we can turn one-time shoppers into repeat buyers, that is huge once we've already helped them figure out what that routine is. So that's all I've got for you today. Hopefully you walk away with 1 or 2 actionable takeaways. And yeah, please stick around. We have a ton of different specific suggestions from Nick, and then I will also be passing it on to Allison.
That's awesome, Adnan. And I just want to say one thing about I really love the Halo product example that you provided. I feel like that's becoming even more important now that you have ChatGPT recommending your products. I was just thinking this morning, actually thought posting on LinkedIn about how to convert ChatGPT traffic because they're really recommending oftentimes your Halo product, and converting that product into a higher AOV or bigger basket is a really critical thing for brands. So thanks for sharing that example. All right, Allison, you ready? Let's talk about pillar 4.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to bring it home, guys, with our fourth and final pillar of the day, which is going to focus on segmentation and personalization. If you could go to the next slide, Nick, please. Thanks so much. So, oftentimes, as a strategist, when brands approach Uncommon, we see one of two of these types of personalization being used. One is oftentimes more favored than the other, which is going to be obvious in a second when I walk through what they are. The first type is known as active consultation, or also known as the quiz model. So I'm sure everyone here, if you don't already have a skincare quiz or some kind of version of a quiz for your users on your site, you have in the past or have experimented with it. And that's really what this version is. I like to think of it as an interview technique. So you're handing the microphone over to your user and you're asking them about themselves. So you're asking them, what are your needs? What are your concerns? What are your goals? And they are giving you that information, providing a personalized experience based off of that. So it's really kind of one-to-one. And the most perfect example of that is obviously the quiz format, which is why it is also called the quiz model. Now, the less popular of the two, which is personally as a strategist, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, one of my favorite and preferred techniques is passive personalization. Now, this one is probably not as obvious, but is probably obvious that it's the exact opposite of active personalization. So instead of you asking your user to provide that information, you instead, as the merchandiser, are providing that personalized experience. Now, that's not to say that you aren't taking information from your user. It's just not a direct one-to-one. So you're collecting information from past purchase experience. And I've often also seen successful brands asking their customer service teams kind of what their frequently asked questions that they're receiving, either over chat, over the phone, or over email, to then, make these personalized experiences. So because this one is less obvious than calling it the quiz model, some examples of this are a concern-based navigation, which you'll definitely hear me talk about. It's one of my favorite ways to personalize using passive personalization. And then also something that we know Rebuy does fantastically well, which is recommended for you product trays. So Nick, if you could go to the next slide. I'm going to talk about 3 different quiz types here today. These first 2 focus on active personalization, and then the last focuses on passive. So starting out, I mentioned you all probably, if you haven't already added a skincare quiz to your site, you've probably thought about it. And oftentimes the, first step as a strategist who's running, A/B testing programs for clients, where we start at a kind of very easy toe dip way in is with placement on the site. So a brand comes to us, starts working with us, and oftentimes we see that quiz is either buried in the footer or you have this quiz on a marketing landing page template, and the only way you're driving traffic to it is through offsite marketing efforts. Now, obviously, this is not the best approach because of what we just talked about. If your users cannot find your quiz, then they cannot provide you with that information that you turn around and build that personalized experience. So you're literally leaving conversion on the table. So there's a couple of different versions of this. If you have it on a marketing landing page, try testing adding it to your navigation in general. If you have it buried in your footer, try testing that against adding it to your main navigation. If it's already in your main navigation, but it's in what I would refer to, and this is kind of my merchandiser roots, so I'll explain what this means in a second, an L2 or an L3 spot, meaning that your user on desktop either has to hover over on navigation or on mobile, click through multiple screens in order to find that link. Try bringing it into what I would refer to as an L or primary position. If it's already in a primary position, you can have a lot of fun with styling and testing. So you can change this into look more like a call to action. You can test, with different font colors or font weights, or even oftentimes we test adding it as a call to action on your hero and your homepage. Although I will say a lot of my clients don't love sacrificing their primary CTA on their homepage hero. So more often than not, what I'm seeing right now is experimenting with keeping your shop all or your shop collection or shop specific product and testing adding a secondary call to action for that quiz instead. Now, I do want to kind of spill some industry secrets from a strategist standpoint, because when we get skincare brands that come to Uncommon, the most common question that I am asked is, how long should my skincare quiz be? And I don't have the answer to that, which might be surprising to you all. because it honestly depends on your users, which is why it's so important to test. And it also depends on your goals. So something like a question quick quiz is going to have more of a response rate, but you're not going to get as much information from a user. And if you have a longer quiz format, something like 10 to 15 questions, your response rate is probably going to be lower, but you're going to get more of that valuable information. So I think what oftentimes happens, and we're all guilty of this, is when we're in e-commerce, we're often looking around to see what our competitors or what other sites are doing. And my number one rule as a strategist is test and focus on you and what works best for your user and also matches your business goals, because what is working for somebody else's site might not be what works for you. So speaking of kind of leading into the second testing type, this is excellent for businesses that have higher return customer rates. However, I will kind of add an asterisk here that this does require a little bit higher level of effort for setup. So you're definitely going to need a developer for their help with this, which, as a side note, here at Uncommon, we can absolutely help you with. So this would be if I come to your site and I'm filling out that quiz and I am telling you that during that experience, I have dry, oily skin and I'm looking for a product for that. And I leave the site and come back and I'm looking at your primary recommended product. This would be adding that information for me right above your call to action of add to cart. So saying this product is perfect for dry, oily skin to really hammer home not only that this is the right product for me, but also that you weren't just collecting that information for me and storing it nowhere, that you're really listening to my concerns and my needs and utilizing that to give me the best experience possible. So this is the final testing type. This has to do with passive personalization. Again, spoiler alert, getting ahead of myself, but something that I love to test and love to implement. So most websites are set up, have their navigation set up based on product type. So we have listed out, cleansers, moisturizers, etc. But that's not usually how any of us shop, right? We come to a new site and we're looking for a product that fits our specific needs. And that's oftentimes where you see increase in the use of your search, right? So just as a side note, you can use your search results, really dive into those analytics to help build this test. It makes it a lot easier. So a product-based versus concern-based. So if you see in your search or commonly used search that people are searching for anti-aging or searching for deep moisture or additional SPF coverage, those are things that you can use to help set up this test. But finally, before I hand things back over to Nick, I just want to talk about a case study that saw a lot of success implementing both active and passive personalization techniques, which is Trish McEvoy Beauty. So Trish McEvoy has been around and a staple in the industry for the last 50 years. So kind of what comes along with that is a fiercely, and I say fiercely loyal, returning customer base. You can see here in some of the numbers that at any given month, it waxes and wanes, but in any given month, the returning customers make up about 75% of total revenue for Trish's brand. So when they came to Uncommon, they were looking for a really modern, elevated digital experience that honored that legacy. But ultimately, when we hear something like that, 75% of total revenue, right? As a strategist, sometimes we kind of clam up. We get a little afraid. And that's because any kind of minute change to the site could drastically impact conversion. Oftentimes, what I see is strategists playing it safe, where we just recommend kind of best practices that might be missing. You do a little magic with some CSS changes, maybe change some base color from style sheets, and we call it a day. But that was not the reason why Trish came to Uncommon. So instead, from a strategy perspective, we really took a step back and we started to think of how can we improve this experience without upsetting that really delicate balance of conversion? And the answer to that was through personalization techniques, because ultimately what the returning customers for Trish care about is that Trish's brand and the brand itself and the website care about them just as much as they care about Trish. So some of the changes that we implemented from a passive personalization standpoint were a concern-based navigation. I told you that's one of my favorites. We also added a concern-based filtering system across collection pages. And then from an active personalization standpoint, what you're seeing here in this recurring video was the marketing landing page template that we created so that users can build their own skincare routine based off of their goals, their needs, and even their price point. And the results speak for themselves. I won't waste time by going through all of them, but the most important that I want to highlight here is Trish has a lot of categories. There, is one of the smaller, but we saw a 35% increase in total sales to the skincare category specifically. So with that being said, I'm going to hand things back over to Nick so that he can walk you all through how you actually move forward and start to implement all of these pillars in a schedule that fits your own needs and schedule.
That's awesome stuff. The passive personalization thing for me, I hadn't heard that before, but I love that term. And speaking about like recreating the retail experience online, what associate at Sephora is going to remember you if you walk out and then walk back in? So actually, this is an example of where your digital experience is even better than retail. I love
For
that
sure,
technology.
which is
That's why we're all here, right?
absolutely so hard to achieve, as we all know.
Love it. Okay. Adnan, Allison, thank you so much. Before we get to Q&A, just talk about how do we turn all of these test ideas and strategy into a 12-month conversion rate optimization plan. So as a reminder, following this masterclass, you're going to get two really great things from this team. The first is a playbook with over 100 individual test ideas, fully described, fully prioritized, fully customized to the skincare category. It's a free ebook in PDF format. It's yours to keep. Print it off, do what you want with it. We hope you love it. And then the second thing is you're going to get a Microsoft Excel-based conversion rate optimization template that's going to have a few tabs on it. And I'm going to show you what those look like. But that's going to be the thing that allows you to basically plot these test ideas onto a 12-month roadmap. So here's an example of what a 12-month roadmap could look like. This one is specific to the SPF category, which is peaking like right now. And so, the first thing you need to do as a brand is kind of map out what your peaks and valleys in your brand's calendar look like. And depending on the time of year, your optimization techniques might, or could always change. And so the most important thing to do is just first at a high level, map out what your year looks like. The second component of your conversion rate optimization roadmap are your test ideas. Now, not all tests are created equal. Commonly in the CRO world, talk about impact versus effort. Some tests are easier to implement than others. Some tests are more impactful than others. Some tests used to be hard a year or two ago, but some partners that are on this screen today probably made these things a lot easier than they used to be in testing them. So always ideate around, keep impact and effort in mind. And you're going to get this prioritization matrix in your roadmap as well. So this is what the roadmap template looks like. There's actually 3 tabs in this Excel document. And I'll just quickly cover what each one looks like. This, as a reminder, it's kind of pre-filled with some test information just so that you get a feel for what a complete one looks like. But what you're going to do is kind of clear it out and fill it out for your brand. So all 100 test ideas are actually preloaded into this Excel template. They're filtered by seasonal phase, effort level, impact potential, and you're going to map these onto your specific brand's calendar. This is what the roadmap tab looks like. So there's a bunch of columns, what month, what your phase or strategy for that time of the year is, any anchor events or milestones in your calendar, key sales, key things that happen to your consumer, back to school, summer break, et cetera, and what your focus for that brand is going to be for the month, and then what test ideas are going to load into those test slots. The second tab is going to have your whole backlogs. This is where you do all your prioritization, list out all your tests, and actually filter, group, and pull things onto your roadmap from the backlog tab. And then the third tab is just a framework and guide, kind of like almost a README for anyone who's going to open this document cold and be like, what the heck are you guys doing and why is it delivering so many results? They can go to this README tab and see the method to the madness. So that's what's going to be in the Excel template that you're going to get after this masterclass. Now let's talk about the playbook. This is the playbook that contains over 100 test ideas that are specific to the skincare category. And again, they're filtered by phase, effort, impact, basically just anything that you need to know about the what, the why, the how of these tests is going to be in that playbook. Here's a few examples of what these pages look like. Title of the idea, effort, impact. What is the hypothesis? What to watch out for when you're running this test? How to actually run this test? And then what types of skincare brands or seasons of the year are these tests best for? This is a zoomed out view. I'm not kidding when I say this playbook is dense. It's meaty. This team worked really hard on it, so I hope you love it. We're going to get to your questions in 1 second. Before we do that, a couple of things. One, I want to thank Adnan from Rebuy and Allison from Uncommon. I'm Nick at Shoplift, and I will talk about the Shoplift offer that is today. It's pretty simple. You scan this QR code. It's going to take you to the landing page, which is now live, that contains a form to download the playbook and the CRO roadmap. So that top QR code is going to take you to that page, and you can start claiming your free downloads now. But stick around because we're going to get to your Q&A. And I'm going to kick it to Allison next to talk about what you're going to get if you scan the second QR code on the screen.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nick. So if you dare scan the second QR code here that is associated with Uncommon, that's going to take you to the Uncommon website. So specifically, this page is our contact us form that will reach out to our fantastic sales team. And part of that process is going to be a completely free CRO audit that is either completed by myself or another member of my fantastic strategy team, which, we only scratched the surface today on ideas. But this also includes kind of just best practices, things across your site that we might be seeing, even from a site speed. We look at everything from site speed to kind of red flags from an ADA compliance standpoint. We got you covered. So if you are interested, please scan. And then also, if you're clicking around and just curious about Uncommon, we have a lot of great additional content on our website, including our case studies. So if you want to see some of the brands within this vertical that we've worked with, feel free. And I'm going to hand things over to Adnan to talk about the Rebuy offer.
A free CRO audit from Allison. Why not? Okay, so if you scan the Rebuy QR code, it will take you to our demo form. If you go ahead and fill that out and either just mention my name or this webinar or anything to do with this, we can make sure that we give you an extended free trial and then also go through an audit for your site as well. The idea there is to be able to just run through and look at your PDP, look at your bundles, look at your cart, all the great things today, and just give you at the very least to walk away with. Like Allison mentioned, we only have so much time today, so there's hopefully lots more that we can help you with once we get in touch.
We saved almost exactly 10 minutes for Q&A. So thank you to everyone who dropped their questions in the chat. All right. I'm going to get to the first question chronologically that I have here. So Lucas asks, I'd like to bring a practical example. In my case, acquisition happens through landing pages, not PDPs. And the main goal is to drive subscriptions. So they're driving subscriptions off of landing pages. From the start, we position a subscription with a reduced first month price and a stronger for life discount than what's available on the main site. Each landing page is focused on a single product subscription, and the offer is anchored around monthly or 3-month plans, often combined with gifts. Given this setup, how would you approach testing strategies focused on landing pages rather than PDPs to increase average order? So the goal is average order value. And then I asked Lucas a follow-up question while y'all were talking about why use landing pages versus PDPs. And I believe the response was because that's what works, which is great. Sounds like it's been tested. The first thing that I would say is test LPs versus PDPs. They're really simple, URL tests to set up if you're sending paid traffic. I've actually seen many brands, skincare category or others, who have actually had surprising results of sending traffic to PDPs themselves, especially if the ads are product focused. Adnan or Allison, any thoughts on how to drive increased average order value from subscription-based landers?
Sure, I can take this one really quickly. It sounds like Allison might have an idea too. So it sounds like you have a lot of the basic building blocks already there, Lucas, which is a great start. It sounds like you have the free gift on the actual page to incentivize the actual conversion. Sounds like you have a couple of different options, so the short term and the long term. So it sounds like the building blocks are there. I also appreciate the fact that you have separate landing pages for each of the different campaigns and ads. You'd be surprised at how many folks think that they're doing an ad campaign or a marketing campaign, and then they just send people generically to their homepage, or they think they're sending to a landing page and it's just going to the PDP. So I think you have the building blocks set up. To Nick's point, maybe it's actually just testing the LP versus the PDP, but even the landing page itself, maybe there's elements on that specific page that you can test. So we talked a little bit about like where do trust badges sit or where does information sit on the page? Maybe that's also worth testing. Another thought that I had is we work with a partner called Niche, NISC, and they've been doing a really good job of testing landing pages just for actual conversion around speed, site speed. So maybe there's also another element to test for that is around just the site speed of the landing page itself. So I think you've got a lot of the basic blocks set up, which is good. I think it's more so just testing for those individual factors.
Yeah, and to add to that, I would say I've seen a lot of questions lately. I think what's kind of transforming, right, as now everything becomes a subscription program, is no longer does it just kind of work for you to offer subscription service. We have to kind of start to iterate on what that means. So, two trains of thought here. One, I would say continue experimenting to Adnan's point about actual setup and layout. Landing pages that you're driving to explain subscription. It could be benefits focused, long-term benefits and savings. You could do a couple of different things with that, with the actual content and the layout and the number of components that are on that page. And then I would say something that I've recently been seeing with some of the questions around subscription program is eventually offering a deeper discount for the more products that you are subscribed to. So that's something that you could also consider. I know that it's a delicate balance of talking about further discounting, but since you already have that, initial subscription discount and then eventual, when you're locked in on your second order or more, you can increase AOV by encouraging users to sign up for more than one subscription.
That actually sparked another really quick thought. I'll piggyback off of your point, Allison. We also have like a buy more, save more type of offering. So maybe a buy more, save more for the one-time purchase is an easier step into the subscription. So it's instead of offering the 1 month subscription and the 3 month subscription, it's maybe that you're still offering the 3 month subscription, but instead of offering the 1 month, there's only a one-time purchase. But for the one-time purchase, if they buy more, they can save more. So if they want to get into a subscription flow, that 1 month maybe isn't even there. They just have to jump straight into your 3 month or your annual one, but you're still offering some sort of discount if they buy more. It's just not on a subscription basis. It's just a quantity basis. So that could be another
Yeah, and you
stepping stone
can
to it.
also think about the free gift that you're associating, right? If you want to encourage additional product discovery, think about adding like a travel size of the next part of that routine. I know that you say that you're already using free gifting, which is awesome, but think about changing up that strategy to encourage somebody to sign up for, the next step within that skincare routine.
The next question that I see is asking about recommended quiz partners. Quiz is a really big thing in this category. I think all of us touched on it. Look, what I would say about this is there are a lot of great quiz apps out there at different price points, different sophistication levels. And so, talk to their sales teams and really drill into what's going to work best for you all. I will quickly plug one, which is, and it was asking the question, which is Okendo. The thing about quizzes is your most engaged shoppers kind of are more inclined to go through your quiz. And so if you're just looking at like the AOV or the revenue generated by the customers who went through your quiz, that's not really a true A/B test. If you want to truly A/B test the quiz, you need to show it to a true 50-50 split of your audience. And so really the only way to do that is with a A/B testing tool. And we have a partnership with Okendo where if you ask them, hey, can we use Shoplift to test variant 1 of this quiz versus variant 2 or quiz versus no quiz? Their customer success people are actually positioned to actually set up and help you set up those tests. So I prefer Okendo because they are super transparent in their testing methodology. But there's a ton of great apps out there. Digio is another great one. So I don't know if Adnan or Allison has any preferred ones either.
Honestly, the two that came to mind, Okendo and Digio as well. So yeah, you hit it on the nose.
Yeah, I would just say I've worked with a lot of different companies that have different needs. Oftentimes, if you're the marketer or merchandiser on the site, it doesn't necessarily mean that you control the budget. So I would say price point is huge and then ultimate goal as well, because some of these quizzed features or apps have the ability for you to make things really, really custom and then can ultimately show a multitude of products at the end. Some can't. So it's ultimately at the end of the day what your business goals are and what fits your needs. But I would say that I've had a lot of success with Okendo. I'm a analytics girly, and I do love how much and how deep their analytics platform is that is attached to the app.
Victoria asks, this is a really interesting one. I've never heard of this before. It's so cool. Our brand exclusively puts users through a 51-step skin quiz with a post-quiz test page to purchase a subscription prescription. So this sounds pretty clinical. Now, Victoria says, we have no problems getting users through the quiz, which is amazing. So first of all, congratulations. But struggle to convince users to purchase annual subscriptions versus month to month. So any suggestions or experiences here to encourage longer term subs? And she says for various reasons, we aren't able to show before and afters, which sounds like clinical again to me. So how to encourage longer like annual subs versus month to month hanging off of a really great product quiz?
I can flag this one first. So there's a handful of ways you can go about it. Again, I think the easiest lever to pull is always around discounting. Now, if that's not you or your brand ethos, completely understand. So I will say kind of that's the easiest one to pull. Also, then on those ending pages, having that educational content. So if you can't show images specifically, still talking about the value of subscribing. So whether it is eventual price savings overall or any of the other value props that come along with your subscription programs. So if you do have, what we were just talking about, which is a further discount for having multiple subscriptions, if it's a deeper discount after, your second, third, version of your refill, right? Even if it's something that's attached like free shipping, communicating those brand level value props that you get as a subscriber versus a one-time purchaser that separates the two. And then I would say as well, if you have, this sounds a little more clinical. So if you have any, reviews or testimonials that are coming from experts within the field, or even using those customer testimonials is going to be huge to convince somebody that might be the right thing for them. I oftentimes find from a skincare perspective, just saying that the routine is required to see results does a lot for people to click that subscribe button.
I love that.
Love
The
that.
routine is required. The only other thing that I could think of to add on is that if there is a way to know that, okay, our retention with these month to month subscribers is at its all time highest in month 3. That's when we have the least amount of people churning off. Maybe there is specific points in the journey where you can continue to try to upsell them to an annual that isn't going to be the moment post quiz. If you're getting them to convert on the month to month post quiz, but you know that you have a better chance after month 3, that could be one way to look at it. At least you're still getting them on the month to month. So that's the only other thing that I would add to Allison's point.
Yeah, dive into your retention data. Honestly, guys, there's a lot of, sometimes people are just hesitant because, like I said, we live in a subscriber based world right now. So it's kind of more difficult to cut through the noise. I liken it to when SMS became really big. And if you were the first person, on that mountain of getting people to sign up for SMS, it was wonderful. And that's kind of where we're at with subscription. Now you've got to kind of break through that noise. Really about going through your data, pulling out for your retention team if they're not doing so already, who is, a monthly purchaser. Have they been a subscriber before and they left, and maybe asking them why? Exit surveys on your subscription programs are huge to get a really solid understanding, and talk to your customer service team. Love customer service teams. They are amazing. They do amazing work, and they have a lot of very important information to share with you for user journey and even just product feedback. So, if somebody has been a one-time purchaser and they've been frequent about it, then that's where you get your retention team involved to start targeting them of the benefits of subscribing and why aren't they subscribing already.
A great point. I would just say your hypotheses here are everything. Like, why aren't people going annual? Start there. If people are saying, hey, I don't know what my life is going to look like 10 days from now, let alone a year from now, explore things like, could you offer 90-day money back guarantee, other things to really de-risk that long-term purchase. Next question is Jenny asks, we are a curator of K-beauty like Soca Glam, but we specifically target for age over 30. So lots of anti-aging, deep hydrating products. We're looking to revamp our whole website, but what is the most important conversion optimization for a platform like ours? So I'm not familiar with those brands specifically, but it sounds like a value-added reseller, a type of e-commerce experience. So you're really, as a curator of these products, you're probably leaning into the personalization stuff. So I would definitely encourage revisiting a lot of the stuff that Allison mentioned about the passive personalization, as well as what Adnan and what Rebuy can do with kind of uh, bundling products and helping people build out routines. But hey, if you're replatforming or revamping the website, you should definitely take advantage of Uncommon's CRO audit. I feel like you get a lot of alpha from that. Anything else to add, y'all?
Yeah, I would say something that is an avenue that I encourage, again, very data driven individual and strategist, and that is my approach to e commerce strategy. But a kind of deeper layer is there's a lot of psychology around how different age groups shop. So if you know that, you're 30 plus, or you have specific age groups that buy specific products, there are pieces that naturally people of that age group look for more often than not. So I hear, 30s, I'm thinking millennials. Social proof is huge. So immediately making sure that you have reviews, but not just written reviews, but, images and videos, and encouraging UGC is just off the top of my head where I go with that.
Jenny also asked, do people really read the words on the PDP, or is it better to make short or detailed PDPs? What I would say to this is certainly don't put words on the page that are meaningless to shoppers. And so the next question becomes, well, what is meaningful to them? Lean into like product reviews. As a marketer, your customers' own words, how they describe the product, what they're saying in reviews, how they're interacting with your support teams, and the words they're using there are the most coveted words in my language book, right? And so you can say that this product is transformational until you're blue in the face. But if your customers don't see it as transformational, or there's a specific type of transformation, be specific, be opinionated, be curated, and use the words that are coming out of your customers' mouths. So yes, people do read words. You'd be surprised.
We always try to use as well. Iconography helps a lot. A win and another passive personalization technique would be to add badging across the site on the PDPs, right? So somebody, in the same way that a new or a bestseller badge works and it kind of connects, even with color theory, adding that on PDPs for, a multitude of things. This is anti-aging. Then immediately, if you do have somebody, because you will get the full scale of individuals, I'd love to say there's a magic formula of just enough information or content that you should put on a PDP. But the answer to that is it will, some people read, some people don't. So making sure that you have elements on the PDP that speak to both. So if you have somebody who just landed on your PDP, wants to know the quick Reader's Digest version, there's something for them there. And then as we talk about the importance and rise in AI and agentic search, what I would say is don't get caught up in the need to have paragraphs and paragraphs. That now there's a very specific way that we should be writing product descriptions. So words are still valuable, but I really encourage everyone, as that's, top of mind, to think through and use your resources on how best to write product descriptions in that way.
I love that you mentioned that. I think somebody had mentioned this earlier as well. Like we are finding products through ChatGPT now. So even if we're not reading it, somebody is. So let's make sure that we're getting that in there somehow, whether it's in the product description or in the meta fields, whatever. The other thing I would like to add is we know that people will read, or at least some people are reading, because sometimes at Rebuy, we are just changing the verbiage that's associated with the product recommendation. We won't even change the recommendations itself. So if you think of maybe it's an apparel, instead of having like this, you might also like having complete the look, or for skincare, it's complete the routine. Having small changes like that can make a difference. So yeah, it sounds like at least some people are reading, because we see changes when we make those kind of verbiage changes.
Test it, right? Okay, we got two more. There's a question that says, we're a nutraceutical supplement brand, which also has skincare supplements. So these are supplements, but that have skincare promises associated with them. They want to increase conversion rate and also decrease bounce rate, which is their biggest challenge. What tests can we try? Uh, you now have access to a playbook with over 100 test ideas that are categorized by KPI impact. So definitely start there. Specific to supplements that have skincare promises and a site that is experiencing high bounce rates, anything kind of jump to mind for anyone here on ways to test things that could have a lot of high impact? What I would say here is, first of all, like look at your analytics, right? If you have high bounce rate, like chop up the traffic and look at bounce rates by segment and see if you have problems first before you start testing new things. Clear up any problems that you might have. You have high bounce rate on mobile. Okay, go look at your page load speeds on mobile. Go look at the mobile experience. Is it not responsive? Is it not built? So best definitely like make sure that you rule out anything that is not that is just like an own goal, so to speak. And then I would start to form your hypotheses about what could be causing the bounce rate and start testing against those hypotheses to see if those are true or not.
Yeah, I would add to that of it's important to understand where the leak is coming from. If, it's just purely bounce rate, I always back up to Nick's point and look at where my traffic is coming from. It might be a disconnect between whatever source that is, whatever ad you have out there, and then the ultimate destination. So really thinking back from the source of, is that the correct place to put someone? Look at the, imagery that you're using in those ads, look at the content that you're also using, the copy that's associated. If it's then on the site, then what I like to do, and I love Shopify's analytics tool for this reason, is that you can dive even deeper and see and break down bounce rate based on page type. So is it specific to one page type? Are you driving more traffic to PDPs? Are you driving just a lot of traffic to your homepage? And then I would start testing from there. So if it's a PDP piece, same thing as Nick would suggest, I would look at ultimately, site speed as number one. I'll look at device type as well, and then associate that with site speed. If you can get a heat mapping tool as well, it's going to solve a lot of issues for you. I know there's a lot of big fancy heat mapping tools out there. If you don't have the price point, Microsoft Clarity is a great, just generic and free tool that you can get installed on the site via snippet. And then you can see user interaction to get you a lot more information. And that's just going to result in, more powerful tests that get to the root of the problem. So I would definitely, if you don't have heat mapping already and haven't done kind of that backtrack with your analytics, start there. And then once you have that information, really focus in on that page type or that area. Especially last thing that I'll say about Clarity, because it's nice because it's free, is they do have that scroll depth. And oftentimes that's where we're seeing kind of a drop off and understanding of what you need to bring above the fold, particularly on mobile devices.
Amazing. Last question that I see in the chat here, and if we didn't get to it, please email me, nick@shoplift.ai after this, and we'll definitely get your question answered. The last question I see in the chat here is, can you do buy more, save more with subscription rather than one-time purchase? I think this is pretty standard with most subscription apps for Shopify now. So I think the answer is just yes, and you definitely should test it. By the way, Shoplift is announcing subscription testing. So definitely test and see what works. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that most subscription apps let you do this now. All right. I think we got through the Q&A. I want to say thank you again to the whole production team behind this. Thank you to Allison from Uncommon. Thank you to Adnan from Rebuy. Really love the knowledge drops today. And this was super fun for me. I love nerding out about CRO and brands. And the resources are now live on the Playbook landing page, and the masterclass recording will be posted. Thank you so much for coming.